Yo, what's going on guys? It's Dude here, and today we're back with a brand new setup video. This time we're going to be doing the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3. Now this is a car that I've gotten many recommendations for, and I can see why, because it's always been one of my personal favorite GT3 cars in Gran Turismo, whether it be GT Sport or this game. Obviously now that this car is a little bit outdated as the 488s come out, I'm not sure if the 488 has actually been replaced yet by a new GT3 car, but this car is definitely on the older side, but it still has an amazing V8 engine and is an iconic car in the Gran Turismo series, and I really look forward to sharing the setup. Now before I get into the setup itself, I'm just a quick overview of the Ferrari 458 GT3. I'm going to be doing this setup fully upgraded. I usually do that for all of the GR3 cars, because they all actually end up having the same amount of horsepower, and it's a good way to compare their performance and their strengths and weaknesses. Now, I will give you guys recommendations to adapt the setup if you're running a BOP or if you're running with a performance points limit. But these statistics you see on the right here are in the fully upgraded variety with the highest RPM turbo available in the car. Now, where this car's strengths really lie is the low speed performance. Whether it be entering a corner or coming out of a corner, the traction is immaculate. It's wonderful traction coming out of the corner. You could plant your foot and exit the corner very easily for a car with almost 800 horsepower. Is very good in that respect. The way the car is on its heels entering a corner, the way it pivots and dances, it almost reminds me of Will Ferrell in Blades of Glory when he performed the Iron Lotus. It was just a beautiful sight to behold, and this car definitely encapsulates that extremely well. Additionally, it does have an extremely nice power band. Usually when I say that, I mean it has a lot of torque down low, and the power band is very predictable, no turbo lag. It's not really punchy out of the low speed corners. It's a very smooth and methodical build of RPM and build of power. I think that contributes significantly to how good this car feels at low speed. As for the things I don't really like about the car, it can definitely understeer on the throttle at high speed, and this is a common issue that cars that have a lot of low speed traction tend to have. When you have a lot of traction at low speed in the rear, this does manifest in on throttle understeer at high speed. That's not exclusive to the 458. A lot of mid-engine cars have this problem to an even greater degree, but I do think it's worth noting. And the biggest one of all, and the one I think that most people are going to struggle with, is the fact that this car has a lot of entry oversteer, especially under heavy braking or lifting off the throttle at high speeds. It demands a lot of finesse and it demands a lot of practice, but if you can get it right, this setup is extremely fast. I'm obviously going to recommend some setup adjustments in case you find the car to be too oversteery, because of course everybody has a different driving style, and I want to make sure that we accommodate that as well. Now before I get to that setup sheet, guys, I want to quickly say that I'm on the road to 5,000 subscribers, so if you can click that subscribe button if you do enjoy the setup and or the video, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a like and a comment really helps me in the algorithm to get these setups out there and get them in your recommended. Additionally, leaving a car suggestion in the comment section below may mean that I get to that car a lot more quickly, as I do have a lot of setups I still need to go through, obviously, in Gran Turismo 7. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the setup. So here we are in the Ferrari 458 GT3 setup. Now this setup philosophy may look somewhat similar to you, but there are some key differences to what I would do on a front engine car with this particular build. And the first thing of note is lowering the front downforce. Now the front downforce, I usually like to run that all the way up and extremely high in the front to get as much front grip as possible. But honestly, this car can't handle it. This car does not have enough rear end grip. The Audi R8, for instance, does not struggle with that same problem, and I could put the downforce all the way up in the front because you have the upgradable rear wing, which provides more rear downforce. This Ferrari does not have that rear wing option. So the aero balance definitely leans towards more in the rear and less in the front, because the car has a lot of natural rotation as an MR car, and it's really going to help you out a lot in those higher speed corners when lifting off the throttle. Now the aero balance alone didn't really make this car feel perfect to me, so another thing that I changed, normally I would get that natural frequency or spring rate, as many of you may know, all the way up to 450, but my natural frequency on this car in the rear is actually 4.00, and again, that just helps a lot with the stability of the rear end. It does have a side effect of providing a little bit more understeer on the throttle. I do think this is the sweet spot with this car, where it's not completely uncompromised, but it is definitely as trimmed out as I could possibly get it without making it undrivable. I did also experiment with moving the ride heights up, and although this did feel good at first, especially entering corners, I did find that on one exit, it actually caused a lot more understeer and it hurt the straight line speed. So getting those ride heights slammed, even on an MR car, is extremely important for this setup to be fast. Now, if you're doing performance points racing, raising those ride heights up to try to lower the PP rating actually may be beneficial to you instead of just lowering the horsepower more than you need to. I do recommend running monster trucked cars when you're doing performance points racing, because at this point in the game cycle, it is faster. I don't know about the future, but yeah, this is the first part of the setup. If you do have any issues with oversteer, I do recommend maybe moving that front ride height up a little bit. Otherwise, you should be good to go. As for the transmission, nothing too notable here. Again, this car is a very broad and forgiving power band where it makes close to peak power for quite a while. The turbo definitely changes it a little bit, but when you take the turbo off and lower the power, the only thing you're really going to have to do to this transmission is move the final gear to the right. As you can see, it's at 3.300 at the moment on this build. Now for max power, the kind of length that you want on the transmission, but you're going to want to move that final gear to the right once again if you're running a lower power level. You usually know if you have a good transmission if at the end of the longest straight at whatever track you're racing at, you're at the end of 6th gear. That's kind of my rule of thumb and my recommendation to you guys. So yeah guys, that's my Ferrari 458 setup. Now we're going to take it out on track and see how it drives. I can't think of any tracks where this car will be absolutely horrendous at, but maybe try to avoid tracks where there's a lot of transitioning at high speed, because again, this car, when you move the weight around and you're on the brakes, it really does get upset, and sometimes the rear likes to snap loose and you have to be a little more careful. Yeah, of course, our reference lap today is going to be at Trowel Mountain as always, and let's get right into it. So here we are at Trowel Mountain Circuit, and you may notice today that I've made the switch to chase cam for these reference laps. I do think it provides a more unique perspective of the car while I'm driving it. So yeah, this is going to be the way that I have these laps from now on. We stay in 5th gear, rev it out, the little dab of the brake, enter. You don't want to turn in too hard, otherwise the car will step out on you. It's pretty fast through those S's. Not the fastest, but pretty damn good. Again, braking and turning, this car likes to step out a little bit when we get to the apex. Wash out a little bit to the outside with some on-throttle understeer. But again, the car rotates amazingly well through there. Get right next to the wall, but don't hit it. And again, the car just dances. It likes to turn in on its own. You really don't have to force it in. You don't have to trail brake all the way to the apex. It's a very, very fun driving experience. As we come out of that corner right next to the wall, get a very, very good exit. You can carry this, a great, great straight line speed of this car down the straight. You want to brake right at the yellow sign there on the right side. Get the car turned in. We miss the apex a little bit, but again, we get that nice rotation. Fly it all the way back out to the outside. The follow-up section, full throttle. Right here on the brakes, this is tough because you're going from turning left to right really quickly. And again, the car can step out there, but we survived it this time. Another tricky part of the track. The Ferrari takes it like a champ. Coming up to the final corner here, you want to brake right at the beginning of the shadow, hard on the brakes in a straight line. Start trail braking, get the car turned in on the curb. Car gets a little bit sideways again at low speed and high speed. The car does like to get loose sometimes entering the corners, but we get a really, really nice exit onto this big straight here. Coming to the line, and a 141.7. Now, when I first started testing this car, I did not think we were going to get into the 41s, not anywhere close. And to have this car right in the mix with cars like the Z4, the Corvette, etc., definitely a formidable car around this particular track. It's obviously not in that top tier with the Subaru BRZ, because nothing is at the moment. But otherwise, I do think it's a very nice car to drive, and it will be good at a lot of different tracks. There's just a little bit of a learning curve with the way that it oversteers, but otherwise, I think it's a fantastic car. So if you guys did enjoy this video and or the setup, I would greatly appreciate clicking the subscribe button as well as the like and comment. It gets my video out in the algorithm, and it also allows you to give me some feedback to what I could do better for the next video. So that's the 458 Italia in the books. There was definitely a lot to talk about in this video, which may result in it being a little bit longer. But I do think all the information that you need to get this car set up properly and drive it to the best of its abilities is here in this video today. But that's it for me, guys. I really do hope you guys have a good night, and I'm out. Peace.